I watched my 4-year-old daughter pull the head off a live chicken with her bare hands, then drink its blood like juice, smiling. When we asked her why, she looked us in the eye and said, "The spirits are thirsty." For 2 years, things were normal. After the madness we went through with Judy and her spirits, we were just happy to be together. John and I tried to forget what happened. Anna was only a baby back then, barely 2. She didn't remember a thing, or so we thought. She turned 4 and started kindergarten. She was smart, bright. Everyone loved her. But then everything started again. It was slow at first. Quiet things, strange little changes. The first time I noticed something was wrong, it was 3:11 a.m. I still remember the clock. I woke up to soft laughter from the living room. I thought the TV had turned on. I got out of bed and walked out, and there she was, Anna, sitting alone on the floor. The TV was off, no lights were on. She was laughing, whispering, talking to someone who wasn't there. "Anna," I said gently, "who are you talking to?" She didn't look at me. Then, without turning her head, she whispered, "They're back, Mommy." I stood frozen. The words made no sense, but the way she said them chilled my blood. Her voice didn't sound like her. It was too calm, too serious. The chicken incident. A few days later, I bought a live chicken. We were going to cook it for Sunday lunch. While I was in the kitchen, Anna walked outside. A few minutes later, I heard screaming. When I ran out, what I saw made my knees go weak. Anna had pulled off the chicken's head with her bare hands. She was holding it by the neck stump as blood poured down. Her mouth was red. She was sucking the blood. Her face was blank, no emotion, just sipping like it was juice. "Anna!" I screamed. John rushed out, too. She turned to us and said calmly, "The spirits were thirsty." John shouted, "What spirits?" Anna looked up at us and said, "You'll meet them soon." My body felt cold. That sentence, "You'll meet them soon," was exactly what Judy had once said back when everything started. I looked at John. I knew he remembered too, but he just shook his head and muttered, "She's just a child. It's nothing." I didn't argue, but deep inside, I knew this was not nothing. The bites at school. 3 days later, the school called us. We arrived to chaos. Outside the head teacher's office, a crowd of children stood in a circle. We walked over and asked what was happening. "Anna beat someone," one girl said, "on the neck." We pushed through the children. On the floor sat a girl, crying, with blood dripping from her neck. Anna stood nearby, smiling. I felt sick. We rushed her into the office. The parents of the beaten girl were furious. We apologized. We paid for the hospital visit, but nothing could fix the fear in their eyes. At home, we had a family meeting. We decided to punish Anna, ground her for a week. When we told her, she smiled. She said, "That's good. Now I'll have more time with the spirits." John's face turned pale. I pulled him aside. I said, "We have to go back to Mtakuja village." He refused. "She's just copying something from TV," he said. "She's just a child." Floating in the room. That night changed everything. It was almost midnight. I heard whispers again from Anna's room. I walked in and froze. Anna was in the air, floating above her bed, not moving. Her arms were out to her sides. Her eyes were open but pure black. She was whispering words I couldn't understand, and then she vanished. I screamed so loud I thought my throat would tear. John rushed in. "Where is she?" "She disappeared," I cried. We looked everywhere. In the closets, under the bed. We ran outside. Then, a knock on the door. We thought it was Anna, but it was Mama Chiku, our neighbor. She heard my scream. We told her Anna vanished. She walked into Anna's room. 15 seconds later, she came back. "She's sleeping in her bed," Mama Chiku said. We rushed in. Anna was there, sleeping peacefully. It made no sense. None at all. We told Mama Chiku everything. She said only one thing. "Go back to Mtakuja." before it's too late. The next morning, I packed Anna's clothes without even telling John. He saw the suitcase and asked, "Where are you going?" "We're going to Amtakuja." He stood in the doorway, tense. "You think taking her back to that village will fix this?" "I don't think," I said. "I know we need help. Help that you and I can't give." He looked at Anna, sitting quietly at the table, drawing. "She's a child," he said again. "She doesn't need a witch doctor. She needs a therapist." But I could see the fear behind his words. He didn't believe what he was saying. Not anymore. I said nothing. I zipped the suitcase shut. He exhaled deeply and finally said, "I'm coming with you." We left that same afternoon. The drive was long and silent. Anna sat in the back seat, staring out. She didn't speak once, not even to ask for water. It was like she wasn't there. About 30 minutes from the village, our car suddenly stopped. The engine died. John checked everything. The fuel, the battery, the oil. Nothing was wrong, but it just wouldn't start. We were in the middle of nowhere. Then Anna whispered from the back seat, "They don't want us to go." John turned slowly. "Who doesn't want us to go?" "The spirits," she said. "They said Matakuja will make them leave." I felt like the air in the car had turned to ice. Then Anna smiled, that awful, knowing smile. 10 minutes later, the engine started on its own. John didn't touch a thing. It just came back to life. We didn't speak again until we reached the village. It was just after 6 p.m. when we arrived at the gate of the old witch doctor. The air smelled of ash and herbs, the same way it had years ago when we first came because of Judy. He was outside, sitting on a stool, waiting. He looked older, thinner, but his eyes, they were exactly the same. "I've been expecting you," he said, that voice, deep, dry like cracked bark. Anna didn't look at him. She stayed behind me, hiding, which was strange. She never hid. Not even when she killed that chicken. The witch doctor took one look at her and shook his head slowly. "She's not alone," he said. "She has become a house." "A house?" John asked. "Yes," the man said. "For many. Not just one spirit, but many. And some are not from here." I didn't know what he meant, but I didn't care. I just wanted her free. "Can you remove them?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. He stood up and walked over to Anna. He crouched down to look her in the eyes. She looked up slowly and said something none of us understood. It sounded like a language I'd never heard. Clicks, hisses, like an animal imitating speech. The witch doctor's face twisted with horror. He stood up and backed away. "It has already begun," he said. "She is no longer fully here." "What does that mean?" John asked. The man didn't answer. Instead, he said, "Bring her at midnight. And whatever happens, do not run." Midnight ritual. We waited in a small hut until midnight. The witch doctor prepared the circle. He used ash, feathers, old coins, and bones from animals I didn't recognize. At exactly 12 a.m., he called us in. The fire in the middle of the circle burned blue. Anna walked to the center by herself. No hesitation. She stood still. The witch doctor began to chant. It wasn't Swahili. It wasn't anything I'd heard before. The words came deep from his chest, vibrating the air. Then Anna's body went stiff, her head tilted back. Her eyes rolled upward until they were just white. She began to scream, but it wasn't a child's scream. It was deep, guttural, like a dying animal, or more like many voices screaming at once. Then she began to speak in different voices. First a man's voice, then an old woman's, then something like a child's, but not Anna's voice, a cold one, mocking. "She is ours," the child voice said. "You are too late," said another voice. The fire flared. Anna's feet lifted off the ground. The circle around her began to shake. The bones clattered. The ash lifted into the air. The witch doctor shouted louder. He threw a powder into the flames. It exploded in white sparks. Anna shrieked. Blood poured from her nose, then her mouth, her ears. John tried to rush in. The witch doctor stopped him. "You go in, you die," he said. "You..." Then Anna collapsed. She lay still. I rushed to her. Her body was cold, but then she opened her eyes. "Mommy," she whispered. It was a voice, just her. I cried. She cried. John held her in his arms. "Is it over?" he asked. The witch doctor didn't answer. He looked tired, older than before. He handed me a small pouch made of skin and feathers. "Keep this near her at all times," he said. "Never take it off." We thanked him, gave him everything we had, money, jewelry, even John's wedding ring. He took nothing. As we walked away, he said, "If she ever starts speaking in that voice again, do not wait. Bring her back or bury her before it spreads." I turned back. "What do you mean, before it spreads?" He didn't answer. He just went back inside and closed the door. We came back home the next evening. The house felt different, lighter, like something heavy had been lifted from the air. I opened every window. I washed Anna's bed sheets, cleaned her room, even burned the pouch the witch doctor gave us over charcoal, like he'd instructed. Anna was calm, quiet. She ate again. She started laughing like a child. Not that horrible deep chuckle from before, not that mocking smile. The first night back, she slept through the entire night. John and I did too. It was the first time in weeks. We thought it was over, but that was the trap. The way evil works. It waits until you let your guard down. It was 3 days later. I was doing laundry when I found the pouch, the one the witch doctor gave us, under the bed. It wasn't where I had left it. I kept it on the wall above a pillow, nailed to a cross made of twigs. I asked John if he moved it. He said no. I asked Anna. She said, "They don't like it watching them." I froze. "Who's they, Anna?" She shrugged. "My friends." I didn't say anything. That night, I nailed the pouch to the wall again, tighter. I whispered a prayer. I didn't even believe in God the way I used to. But in that moment, I prayed anyway. A week passed. Anna was still calm, but quiet, too quiet. She stopped asking questions. She stopped talking to her dolls. She just sat and drew, every hour, pages and pages. One night I looked through them. The drawings were black, gray, dark red, figures, tall ones with no eyes, just gaping mouths. One picture had 5 of them standing in a circle around a little girl. The girl had no face. The paper was torn where the face should have been, like she scratched it out again and again. Another picture showed the inside of our house, but the walls were bleeding. I asked her about it. She said, "It's not real, yet." John changes. John tried to stay strong, but something was changing in him too. He started drinking again. Not beer, liquor, strong stuff. Every night. I woke one night to find him standing outside Anna's room, just staring at the door, not moving. "John," I whispered. He didn't respond, just kept staring. I touched his shoulder. He jumped like I'd shot him. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I heard someone talking," he said. "From inside." It was probably Anna. "No," he said. It wasn't her voice. A few nights later, I woke up to laughter. At first, I thought it was coming from outside, a TV maybe, but when I sat up, I realized it was coming from Anna's room. It was soft, but high-pitched and layered, like several voices laughing at once. I opened her door. She was asleep, peacefully, but her mouth was open, and the laugh was still coming out, even though she wasn't awake. I stood there frozen. Then her eyes snapped open. The laughing stopped. She whispered, "You shouldn't be in here." Something in the wall. 2 nights later, John woke me up. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. It was 2:17 a.m. There was a sound, scratching, faint, like something inside the wall, not on the wall, inside it. It moved behind the headboard, then across to the corner, then up toward the ceiling. We stood in the hallway. It moved from Anna's room into ours. Then it stopped. We didn't sleep. In the morning, John opened up the drywall. Nothing was inside, not a rat, not a wire, just empty space. But in the dust on the inside of the wall were handprints, tiny ones, burned into the surface. The next day, I called the witch doctor. I told him what was happening. He didn't say much, just asked one question. "Has she started speaking in other voices again?" "No," I said. "Then she's still fighting," he said. "But the house is not clean. You must prepare." "Prepare for what?" But he hung up. That night, someone knocked at the door. It was 3:41 a.m. We live in a gated compound. No one should be able to reach our door. John grabbed a bat. I held Anna behind me. He opened it slowly. No one was there. Just the pouch, the one the witch doctor gave us. But it was burnt, black and torn, like it had been set on fire. And beside it, written on our doorstep in something red, "She's ours. You can't keep her." It happened the next day. Anna was playing alone in the living room. John was fixing the back fence. I was in the kitchen, and then I heard it. A voice, cold, deep, coming from Anna. "Do you really think you won?" I ran to the living room. Anna was standing in the middle of the room, holding her doll by the neck. She looked up, but it wasn't her face. Her eyes were gone. Just deep pits. And her mouth was too wide, stretching, like something inside was smiling through her. "Do you want to see what's behind her eyes?" the voice said. I screamed. John came running in. She collapsed to the floor. That night, I called the witch doctor again. This time, I begged him to come to us. He said he would prepare something. "But I cannot enter that place until the sun rises," he said. "It is no longer safe in the dark." "What do we do until then?" "Stay awake," he said, "and don't let her be alone, no matter what." We locked every door, turned on every light. John taped crucifixes to the walls, even though he hadn't been to church in years. I found my old Bible and placed it on Anna's chest while she slept, or pretended to. The witch doctor said he'd arrive at dawn. We just had to make it through the night. It was 8:12 p.m. Anna hadn't spoken since the voice returned earlier. She sat on the couch, completely still. She didn't blink, didn't move, just stared, straight ahead. At one point, I tried turning on cartoons. She turned her head toward me slowly and said, "He's already inside." Then looked back at the screen, which was now pure static, even though it was a streaming channel. The lights go out at 9:17 p.m. The power went out. Every light, every socket. Silence. The house felt like it held its breath. John went outside to check the fuse box. I sat in the dark living room, holding a flashlight, watching Anna. The beam caught her eyes. They didn't reflect like normal. They were pitch black. No glimmer, no white, just void. John came back in, shaking. "The fuses are fine, but something's wrong with the box. The wires are burned." He held up a wire. It had melted. The metal twisted like it had been cooked. That was when we heard the footsteps upstairs. Upstairs, we live in a one-story house. There is no upstairs. But above us, the ceiling creaked. Footsteps, slow, heavy, walking back and forth. Then a dragging sound, like something long was being pulled across the attic. John grabbed the flashlight. He looked at me, nodded once, then went toward the hallway. "Stay here with her," he whispered. I nodded. He climbed the ladder to the attic. I waited. The footsteps stopped. Then, bang! The sound of John hitting something, followed by a scream. He fell. I ran to the hallway. John was lying at the base of the ladder, gasping. His hand was bleeding. Deep cuts all along the wrist and fingers. Something grabbed me, he said. It was waiting. I wrapped his arm in a towel, but the cuts were strange, not like from nails or tools. They were jagged, like teeth marks. I helped him back into the living room. Anna hadn't moved. She just turned her head toward us and said, "He doesn't like when you go up there." "That's his room." I asked, "Who?" She looked at me and said, "The one behind my eyes." They begin to manifest. At 11:01 p.m., we heard whispering in every room. It came from the vents, the closets, the floorboards. We couldn't make out the words, but the feeling was clear. Mockery. They were laughing at us. Then the smell started. Rot, decay, like dead animals. I opened Anna's bedroom. The smell was strongest there. The walls were soaked, not wet. Soaked with a thick, black ooze. It was coming from behind the wallpaper, through the cracks, dripping onto the floor. I stepped back, gagging. Behind me, Anna said in a voice too deep for her throat, "You're seeing his tears." The shadow 12:46 a.m. John was resting on the couch, wrapped in bandages. I sat beside Anna, who had fallen into some sort of sleep. That's when I saw it. A figure. At the far end of the hallway, just standing there, no face, no features. It was tall, too tall for the ceiling. Its head bent to fit under the door frame. It didn't move, didn't breathe. I blinked. It was gone. When I turned back to Anna, her nose was bleeding. She smiled. 2:33 a.m. The walls break. We tried to pray. I held John's hand and said the Lord's Prayer. Halfway through, every door in the house slammed shut. Windows cracked. A sound like screaming came from the floor itself. Anna stood up, on her own, eyes wide open, arms out, and began to walk in circles, chanting, not words I understood, something ancient, rhythmic, repetitive. John shouted her name. She stopped, turned, and vomited something black onto the floor. It sizzled when it hit the wood. Then she collapsed. 3:06 a.m. We thought she was asleep again, but then her body arched off the floor, like a bowstring pulled tight. Her mouth opened wide, wider than was humanly possible. And from her throat came a voice, one I'll never forget. "She's gone. This is our house now." John tried to grab her. She threw him across the room into the wall. His shoulder cracked. I tried to reach for her, but the air around her was burning. The temperature dropped so fast, my breath came out in clouds. Then she began to levitate. A foot, then two. Her body hung limp, arms stretched outward. I screamed. The windows all shattered. The TV turned on by itself. Every screen, static. Then words. "Dawn won't save you." At exactly 5:02 a.m., the front door blew open. The wind rushed in. Anna's body fell to the ground, lifeless. I screamed, but then footsteps, a silhouette in the doorway. It was the witch doctor, not alone, two others with him, all dressed in ceremonial robes. They walked in silently, stepping over the shattered glass and blood. The witch doctor knelt beside Anna, placed a hand on her forehead. "She's still in there," he said. Then he looked at us. "And so is he." He stood up, pulled out a gourd, a bone-carved staff, and a small black mirror, and said one word, "Begin." 5:04 a.m. The sky was just beginning to lighten, but the house was still cloaked in shadow. The witch doctor knelt beside Anna's body. "She's unconscious, but not gone," he whispered. "The spirit is layered. This is not one, it's many. One has claimed dominion, the others serve." He placed a small black mirror on the floor next to her, facing her face. Then he pulled out what looked like a bundle of twigs tied with red string. He lit them. The smoke that rose was white, but moved like it had purpose. It curled in strange, unnatural directions, forming loops, swirls, even briefly shapes that looked like eyes and mouths. He began to chant. The others who came with him, two silent women, older, maybe in their 60s, began to sing in a language I didn't know. It sounded ancient, like it was older than language itself. Raw, vibrational, heavy with sorrow. Then Anna opened her eyes. The voice of the other. Her eyes were pure black. No pupils, no white. Just two endless voids. Her mouth opened, and a sound like nothing human came out. A low, guttural groan, like a horn being blown under the earth. The candles flickered. Then she sat up without using her hands. The witch doctor didn't stop chanting. Anna turned her head toward him, and then she smiled, but not with her mouth. Her cheeks rose, her eyes crinkled, but her mouth remained flat, lips pressed shut. It was wrong, completely inhuman. "You are too late," she said, in a dozen voices at once. Male, female, old, young, they all spoke through her. "This house belongs to us. This body is our altar." The floor began to vibrate. A deep rumbling came from the ground. From the black mirror beside her, a second face began to appear. Not a reflection, but something behind the glass. It was pale, hollow-eyed, grinning with broken teeth. The witch doctor struck the floor with his staff and shouted a single word that I can't remember. It wasn't English. And the face in the mirror screamed, vanishing. The walls began to bleed, not metaphorically, actual blood, dripping from the corners, from the vents, down the windows. Anna began to levitate again. Her body twisted, like something inside her was trying to break out. Bones popped, muscles snapped and reformed. The two elder women placed their hands on her feet and chest and began to wail, not scream, wail, like mourning mothers at a funeral. Then came the first voice, a girl's voice. It came from Anna's mouth, but sounded like it didn't belong there. "Help me. I can't see. It's dark." It was Anna, the real her. But before we could respond, her mouth opened again and screamed, "She is ours!" The room exploded with wind. Furniture flew. The mirror shattered, except for the black one. It remained still, untouched. The witch doctor pressed the staff into Anna's chest and whispered, "Come forward." The manifestation of the entity. The chanting stopped. Silence. Anna's body convulsed, and then a shape began to pull itself out of her mouth. It was like smoke, but heavy, dense, wet. It had weight. It took the form of a creature with antlers and sunken eyes. It stood at least 7 feet tall, once fully formed, in the center of the room. His face was featureless, but I could feel it watching all of us. The witch doctor did not flinch. He drew a circle of ash around himself, Anna and the spirit. The other two women joined hands and began to spin, slowly, singing again. The spirit tilted its head at them, then spoke. "You have no right. This one was given to us." The witch doctor replied, "She was stolen." The spirit laughed. It sounded like wind chimes made of bone. "You think this is an exorcism?" it said. "This is a war. You remove one and another takes its place." It pointed toward me. "She was promised, blood for blood, spirit for spirit." Then, horrifyingly, it turned to Anna's unconscious body and bent down, placing its face against hers, as if whispering into her soul. "She was opened by the old woman," it said. "The one who invited us." That was when I understood. Judy's grandmother, her seance, her chants. That old woman had called something, and it had never left. The witch doctor screamed, "You will release her!" He struck the spirit's chest with the bone staff, and it shattered into ash, only to reform again seconds later. The witch doctor fell back, coughing blood. "This is not one," he said. "This is legion." Suddenly, all the lights in the house flashed. A burst of white light came from Anna's chest. From it, a figure emerged. An old woman, small, wrinkled, her body glowing with soft white light. She looked exactly like Judy's grandmother, but different, peaceful. She floated toward Anna. The demonic spirit shrieked, pulling back, recoiling. The woman raised her hand and pressed it gently to Anna's forehead. "Shh," she said. "Child of sorrow, you are not theirs." Anna began to shake violently. The demonic spirit reached for the woman, but its hand passed through her. The woman looked at the witch doctor. "It was I who opened the door," she said, "but I have returned to close it." She turned to the mirror, raised her hand, spoke a word I didn't understand, and the mirror cracked. The black smoke began to pour into it. Screaming, clawing, Anna's body convulsed again, but her eyes turned from black to gray, then to blue. She was coming back. The final spirit tried to flee, but the witch doctor trapped it in the staff. A sharp cry echoed as the spirit collapsed into the bone. The staff glowed red, then went dim. Anna gasped and collapsed. I ran to her, held her. Her eyes fluttered open. She looked empty, exhausted, but present. She whispered, "Mommy?" And I broke. John was crying too, his arms still wrapped in blood-soaked cloth. The witch doctor stood up, shaking. "It is not over," he said. But for now, the doorway is closed." He placed the black mirror, now completely blank, into a cloth and sealed it. Then he looked at me and said, "You must never bring her near that girl again. Never speak of the dead. Never call their names, or it will find its way back." I nodded, and then he was gone. The day we went back to Amtakuja was supposed to be our chance. After everything Anna had done, the blood, the whispers, the broken bones, we had no other option. We had been so desperate, dragging her to the witch doctor. The night before, Anna had warned us. "He's not going to help you," she said in that empty voice she sometimes used. "He's already done." We thought she was bluffing. She always fought going to Amtakuja, but we couldn't afford to listen to her again. Not after she almost killed Jackie's mother. We left early. Anna sat in the back seat, arms folded, staring out the window the whole ride. Not a single word, no crying, no anger, just silence. When we got close to the village, she finally turned to me and said, "You're going to bury him today." I didn't answer. I just looked at my husband. He looked straight ahead. For the first time, I think he believed me. At the witch doctor's hut, the crowd was quiet. Someone whispered that he was found dead in the morning. Diana asked to see the body. They let her. His face was frozen in fear. Bruises on his neck, scratches on his arms. It didn't look like sickness. It looked like a fight, a losing one. I turned around and looked at Anna, who was still standing beside me. "Did you do this?" I whispered. She looked at me and said, "I was in my room, Mama. You tucked me in, remember?" And I had. That was true, but her hands, they had the same bruises again. "Where did you get these?" I asked. She smiled. "People get hurt when they get in the way." Back home, things got worse. Anna stopped sleeping. She would sit in the hallway all night, whispering to people we couldn't see. Sometimes we'd wake up and find her just standing in the corner of our room, watching us, smiling. Mama Chiku, our neighbor, told us we needed to try something else. If Imtakuja has failed, go back to where it started. Sumbawanga. I didn't argue this time. I called Judy's family. Her father picked up. He was quiet for a moment when I explained everything. Then he said, "My wife died because of that spirit. Judy is okay now, but not without sacrifice. Come here, bring Anna. Maybe we can end this. We left the next morning. Anna cried and screamed the entire drive. At some point, she stopped screaming and started laughing, not like a child. It was deep, slow, and wrong. She kept saying, "You're going to regret this." When we arrived, Judy was standing at the gate with her father. She looked completely different, calm, gentle, the same Judy we had first hired years ago. Anna looked at her and froze. "She's clean now," Judy's father said. "We can help Anna, but only if we act fast." He brought us inside. Anna refused to sit. She paced. She kept whispering, "They're angry. They're very angry." Judy didn't flinch. She said to me, "I saw this spirit in dreams for months before it left. It's strong. It likes children because they're easier to keep." Her father told us that we would need to go to the grandmother's grave. That was where it began. That's where it had to end. And we needed the same pastor who prayed for Judy. They called the pastor, and he arrived an hour later. As soon as he walked in, Anna let out a scream. Her nose started bleeding. She fell to the ground and began convulsing. Her eyes rolled back and her voice changed, deep and loud, not like hers at all. "I don't want to go back," the voice said. The pastor took a deep breath. "We're going," he said, "today." We drove deep into the forest area where Judy's grandmother was buried. The grave was old, almost covered in vines. Anna had to be held down. She kicked. She screamed. "I will burn you alive," she shouted at the pastor. He stood at the grave, opened his Bible, and began to pray. The moment he started, Anna screamed louder. Her skin began to change color, pale, almost gray. Her fingers turned cold. Her eyes turned black. Suddenly, the wind picked up. Leaves flew all around us. A deep, growling sound came from nowhere. And then Anna fell silent. She lay flat on the ground. Then she slowly stood up. But her feet weren't touching the ground anymore. She floated. Her head tilted back and her mouth opened unnaturally wide. "I am not leaving," the voice screamed from her mouth. The pastor shouted louder. He screamed prayers in Swahili, pouring holy water at the base of the grave. Anna began to twist in the air, her arms stretched wide like something was pulling her apart. Then something black started coming out of her chest. It looked like smoke, but thick, like oil. It formed into a tall shape. 2 glowing eyes. No face, just eyes. The pastor didn't stop. He pointed at the grave. "You return now, back to where you came from," the spirit hissed. It floated in the air for a moment. Then it flew straight into the grave with a loud blast of wind. A moment later, fire erupted from the soil. A scream came from inside the grave, echoing into the trees. The fire went on for a full minute, then slowly died out. Silence. Anna collapsed. But later, after 5 minutes, she woke up. Anna woke up crying. "Mama," she said weakly, "I'm so thirsty." I looked at her. "Thirsty for what?" She said, "Water, Mama, just water." We gave her water. She drank and cried at the same time. She couldn't remember anything. Not the chicken, not the spirits, not Jackie's mother, nothing. We returned to Judy's house. Judy hugged Anna tightly. "You're free now," she said. "They're gone." Anna cried harder. She hugged her back and said, "I don't want them to come again." That night she slept like a normal child. No talking, no laughter, just peace. We took her home the next morning. The neighbors still avoided her. Some kid at school refused to play with her. But over time, they saw the change. She smiled more. She helped in the kitchen. She read books. She even apologized to Jackie. It took months, but slowly, they started to believe she was okay. And I believed it too, until the knocking started again. Please subscribe and like. Also, if you would like us to continue for part 3, please comment part 3